how Elon Musk frames it's like a combination of Uber and Airbnb. Maybe most of the network utilization potentially would be you rent a car for multiple days or weeks at a time that you can use to drive around. That's somebody else's car potentially. Do you think they'll have something at Robotaxi event in August on the 8th that will allow them to have something end this year, potentially next year? Like how do you view that event within the context of your report?
I'd love to get your opinion on this. So I'm going to throw the question back at you, but I've been watching, and at ARC, we've been watching the videos that they've been putting, like the teaser video that they put at the end of the shareholder meeting where they demonstrate what the app looks like. They put something in the report that they put out for their quarterly earnings call as well. So I feel like they're gearing up to give us more information on that app. I think if they were to launch something as soon as this year, I would be thrilled if it were like a full autonomy solution, but they could also launch something with human drivers in the meantime if they wanted to. And I've written about that in the past. And Tesla hasn't really talked about this much publicly, but I think it's possible, and it's a way to get the business model in check, right? Because you have to set up the infrastructure to do this. And they could get like data that's relevant to ride hail. And I think they can kind of already do that because they can likely discern which cars are Ubers on their current network. But there's a number of reasons to do it, and it'll start that recurring revenue stream early before autonomy. So could be that as well. But what do you guys think?
I'm trying to pull up something for you guys to look at that I think you might enjoy.
Show and tell. Let's go.
This is Rosalie Nathans on LinkedIn. And if you look at what she's saying here, she works at Tesla. From the little teaser video at the end, this looks like the person who is in the vehicle. So she's claiming that they have a working demo inside the company internally. So it's just, is that true? Is that not true? Hard to say. I can't verify it absolutely, but this is on LinkedIn. And I just thought that was an interesting piece of information that a viewer pointed out to me and that I wanted to kind of pass along.
Well, first of all, you guys are the best because you follow this so closely. So I haven't seen this yet, but I'm psyched to see it. So I think, it doesn't surprise me that they could put together a demo, right? I don't think they're going to release a geofence solution, but they could geofence a demo if they wanted to, right? Just, okay, this is the pickup drop off. We know the car works really well on this particular route. Like maybe it's near the Tesla factory where all their employees drive. So yeah, I think I'd love to hear more at the event, and I feel like it's coming. And this has convinced me even more.
Yeah, I think I put out sort of what I was expecting out of the event a couple weeks ago, if I remember correctly. And it's kind of like morphing the closer we get a little bit. Because I really do think that teaser, again, like we're Hans and I, the psychos that watch it, wait until the event is over. And then we're like, ooh, what's this video? So that definitely points to they will likely, very, very likely show at least an app, like something that outlines what the rider should expect when they're hailing a car from Tesla. The frustrating part about that video is that right as the car was pulling up, it cut out before you could see into the cabin to see if there was a person behind the wheel or not, steering wheel or not. I'm like, damn it. So there's a teaser. But I wouldn't be surprised. If you version 12, and if you sort of follow the breadcrumbs that I think Elon Musk is putting out there about, they have visibility into 12.5 and 12.6, and they're down to an intervention a week or whatever that number is. It seems very likely that they'll be able to set up at least a demo for the event that shows this in action, right? In some way that says, hey, we're going to have a self-driving ride-hailing network. It's going to be through our app. You'll be able to call a car from Tesla, potentially, and you'll be able to get into it and be driven around at what I think is going to be just at, if not lower prices than Uber. And I think you all talked about this in the research report as well, because you're yanking the biggest cost variable out of the equation, which is the driver. And that becomes the forcing function for your app to be downloaded by the millions potentially over time, if you sort of go that direction. So I think they'll definitely show that. an app where you can ride hail self-driving cars. I think the variable there is that Tesla definitely likes to announce things, it seems, way ahead of time, you know. So Cybertruck was 4 years, but that was also supply chain and all that stuff, right? Model 3 was about a year or so. Model Y was about a year or so. So I think between, you know, middle year 2024 to middle year 2025, it seems like there is a path for Tesla to have a ride-hailing, self-driving network in maybe some localities that allow it within the next 12 months. And if they're confident about that, they'll probably announce that at the event, with perhaps some partnerships or some discussions they've already had with maybe, I don't know, the mayor of San Francisco or whoever, or DeSantis in Florida or whatever. So I very well expect that. And I think in conjunction with that, they'll also show that 2-seater Cybercab. I think the no steering wheel and pedal solution that's going to be part of that equation as well. So they'll say, you know, you can ride hail a existing Model 3 or Y, but if you really want the super cool, private, awesome experience, lowest cost per mile, 6 sound system, comfortable chair, whatever, get the Cybercab, and then that will come and pick you up, and so on and so forth. I envision something like that, but who knows? I mean, I'm throwing just darts at the wall, right? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and I mean, particularly, like, if they could certainly launch a solution again with humans behind the wheel. I mean, we already know that's possible with Uber. And I would add to that the cost advantage that they have, it's not just that you're removing the driver. If you increase the utilization rate so that the car, I mean, we know it'll get a higher utilization rate than personally driven vehicles. So that's like 70 cents to $1 per mile costs someone in the US on average to drive their car. You know, the average ride hail price is like $2 to $3. I saw $3 recently. So, okay, can they undercut that? Well, it's an electric vehicle. It's got lower maintenance and operating costs than the gas-powered car. So certainly better than the average car already, just because it's a Tesla. And then if you're spreading all of the fixed costs out over more mileage, and theoretically they'd get better utilization rate than Uber cars as well, because Uber relies on people to sign their car up for the network. So maybe like some Uber cars, you know, maybe you only drive Mondays, Tuesdays or something. Like not everyone is a full-time everyday Uber driver. I think I've looked at the average mileage is something like 20,000 per Uber car. That's my estimate. But it could be maybe more like Elon has been saying 5 times the utilization rate of a human driver. So that would be more like 70,000. My model is like 70 to 100,000. I think it could be a little more, but within that range. So then you're lowering the cost even more. So even a Tesla on Uber would be cheaper on the Tesla network if it's autonomous and goes more miles. On
the Tesla network thing, you know, just thinking back to how Elon has rolled out the bot that, you know, they put out the dancing guy in the costume basically as a stake in the ground that this is the way that we're moving. And I'm wondering if this Tesla demo was essentially the Tesla network version of the dancing guy and the robot, where it's like kind of thrown together. They are doing something behind the scenes, and like this is, hey, okay, people, let's start to coalesce around this idea and let's start to move forward. But that said, I think, you know, one of the things that we know is that there's a huge fleet of validation drivers, like you've mentioned, and then if there's already this fleet of validation drivers and they want to start previewing and working out the kinks in a Tesla network app, to me, like the thing that makes sense for the development of the Tesla network app is to go ahead and have your validation drivers be operating this service internally to the company. And this is probably going to be something that kind of rolls out further and further to Tesla employees, probably starting in Palo Alto, then potentially expanding to Fremont and Austin as they really work through just refining all the details and getting everything really working. So that's kind of what I would maybe expect on August 8th, is that they're announcing that they're going to be opening up the Tesla network to employees within, you know, a month or by the end of the year or something to that effect. And then obviously, yeah, I would agree with Farzad on a lot of the predictions about exactly what are the form factors of vehicles that we see, and some of Elon's commentary around those types of things.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, they already have professional drivers on the payroll. I mean, even if they needed some of them to like check specific scenarios, what couldn't they take like a portion of them to jumpstart the service? Maybe, yeah. I'm super excited for that event. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be sick. And then the other thing too, like Airbnb, like the how Elon Musk frames it's like a combination of Uber and Airbnb. I think that points to maybe it's not, maybe most of the network utilization potentially would be you rent a car for multiple days or weeks at a time that you can use to drive around. That's somebody else's car potentially. So like how Turo, I don't know if you're familiar with the app Turo. Yeah. So it's like a driverless Turo. It just shows up at your house instead of meeting somebody. Then you just have the car. You have the car for multiple days, and then Tesla insures the car through Tesla Insurance. Potentially you can get a discount on charging if you charge at home. You use, Tesla Energy or whatever. They have that thing in Texas where it's like $30 a month or whatever it is. So that's where the verticals start to kick in, and it gets really, really wild too. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how they execute this. On the China topic, what are you seeing out of that region in relations to self-driving? Because one of the big things that I hear from the sort of the side that says Tesla is not where you think it is because China is making insane developments and they're actually either behind the tech or they're going to struggle to get a foothold in the area because there's a lot of competitors. How do you all view that market?
Yeah, I think Chinese competitors are formidable on the electric vehicle front, no doubt. And Elon himself has said that he takes those automakers seriously. And BYD, for instance, is a company that ARK invests in for that reason. I think on the autonomy front, it's a different group of companies. I mean, yes, I think BYD has talked about autonomy. Pretty much every auto company has talked about autonomy at this point. But the company that has like the most announcements and the most PR releases, it seems to be Baidu. And maybe they're also in favor with the Chinese government, which is an important thing in China, because they're getting a lot of. They seem to have gotten the most approvals in terms of testing and launching some level of service. I know that some of the services still had humans behind the wheel, and some of them were geofenced in this way where it's like point to point, like certain pickup, certain drop off points. I think that they have ambitions to evolve beyond that, but and so I'm watching that company. Although, it's like a question of whether or not like investing in China at this moment is its own question, but I'm watching at least the technology progress there. And then there's another company, Pony AI, and they have a US presence as well that was testing autonomous driving in China. And I've heard the argument that their technology arguably superior, but again, it's like a scale question versus others. So, but some of the things that I've heard about the Baidu approach sound funny to me. Like one of them is they use HD maps, which is something that I think is, again, just a brittle approach and hard to scale. So, perhaps it's like a lucrative business for them to sell this to local governments, like services off of the maps, but I don't think that those are necessary for autonomous driving. And in fact, it seems like you kind of need both. Even if you use high definition maps, you still want the car to be able to react to unknown scenarios in order to launch a successful commercial service. So that's kind of like my high level thoughts. But I mean, Tesla has seen, like, compared to other foreign companies, Elon clearly, wants to be in good graces with the Chinese government. They were the first to wholly own their factory, as you guys know, versus partner with another player. So, I mean, they've had amazing progress. And I think it's because China wants to be a leader in autonomy and EVs. And they see Tesla, they don't want to prevent Tesla from forging ahead within their country to some extent because they care so much about being one of the first to really scale those two technologies. So I think that mindset is working in Tesla's favor.